looks like he sent this in to be like the stunt double for Bryan Cranston and in Breaking Bad or something. But
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Taste Like Music. Jason, Joe, and Crams are here, and we are reviewing an album today. We are talking about the new Jethro Tull record, the first in a long time since their 2003 Christmas album. The last album of original material was back in 1999, so been a real long time. The whole band is new, I believe, on this one. Just Ian Anderson, the only original member. What you guys think?
I thought it was pretty good, to be honest. I didn't love it, but I liked it. Early contender for the Senior Circuit Award. Probably won't have the mileage to pull it off. First thoughts are I'm going 3 stars. I think it's good, although I do think it's pretty spotty at times. But a lot of the musicianship and just the music composition is pretty cool at times.
Yeah, I was kind of worried when I heard the lead single. I don't know if it's an actual single or not, but Zealot Gene, the title track. And it sounded really, it's one of the worst, one of the two or three on here that just sounds like a PlayStation 1 game. The instrumentation is so like digital and synthesized, like it just doesn't sound like a real band behind him. And that's where it runs into trouble. I think the folkier, kind of like Renaissance, English, ye old English fair stuff is pretty good. The guitar on that sounds good. So I don't know what the problem is. If he was just like, okay, here's some Pro Tools guitar sounds, let's just plug that in. Because when they do get heavier, it's just really kind of obvious that it's not real. Like there's no bottom end here. The bass and the drums are real kind of just non-existent basically. But when he does kind of delve into the folkier stuff, the heavy horses, then it's pretty decent. There's a couple songs on here, Sad City Sisters and Shoshana Sleeping has a nice fluttering trademark Ian Anderson flute. I thought was pretty decent, but I still can't go any more than 3 stars. I think it's okay. It's better than what I thought it was going to be, but it's still, it's not great.
Yeah, the title track and the first song on the album are the worst songs, especially the first song. It really sounds like that lame late 80s wannabe prog metal kind of sound they were doing, really thin with that lame synth in the background. Yeah, some of the songs have that production and some of them don't. It's really weird. And when they don't, you're right, it flourishes.
So I don't feel as favorably as you guys do. I think the writing is actually more interesting than I thought it would be. Lyrically, he was like working with some sort of like concept where every track is about like a different aspect of the human condition, and he had like these words written that he was going to like base each song off of. And then he used the Bible, I guess, as a jumping off point, like where the words were found in the Bible, and kind of used that to work on the lyrics. It's kind of interesting. I haven't gotten too deep into lyrical analysis at this point, only given it a couple listens. But in spite of the somewhat strong songwriting, this record is really let down by several major flaws. It was produced and mixed by Ian Anderson himself. Definitely should have outsourced that for sure. There is a surround sound mix, which I haven't heard, that he didn't mix. So I would be interested to hear if it's any better, but I think the record sounds very, very amateurish. Doesn't sound very professional at all. I think the band is not very good, and maybe it's a result of the recording situation and like sending files back and forth. I guess it wasn't recorded live altogether. Everyone worked on their parts separately. Very, very stiff. The drums sound almost robotic at times. I think the drum sounds are really bad. They sound completely lifeless. I think that's especially apparent on Baron Beth, Wild Desert John. Very, very rigid playing. I think his voice is okay. It doesn't make me dislike any of the songs, but it doesn't bring the songs to life the way it used to. Like in the past, in the 70s, like Ian Anderson could, sing a very basic melody and just make it, come alive because his voice was so cool and unique. And it doesn't really have that anymore. It's just kind of there. It doesn't detract, like, maybe like certain vocalists that I've complained about on the channel, like McCartney's later voice, but I don't know. I don't think this record sounds good at all, except for the flute. The flute sounds great, and his flute playing is great. The electric guitar has a weird tone a lot of the time. It's like he didn't know what band he was joining. Like, he found out he was in Jethro Tull, and he like Googled them real quick and saw that they won the Grammy for Best Metal Album and was like, oh, I'm going to bring my metal rig. It's so out of place on so many of the songs. He just on the opening track, Mrs. Tibbet, he comes in so heavy and over the top. It's like, what song are you even playing? Like, this doesn't match at all. Really weird. I'm surprised at the praise this record's getting. I've heard multiple people say it's the best album in 50 years or the best one in 40 years, the best since Broadsword, which makes me very scared to do the rest of their discography when we do the full listography, because how low did those other like 90s records set the bar? Because this is not a very good record. I'm at 2 stars.
Yeah, I mean, I agree in a lot of aspects. I do think the songwriting itself, like the lyrics and some of the melodies, are pretty good. Like, I didn't hate the actual, like, if you stripped it down to like the very essence of songwriting, I think it's pretty good, but the production does let it down a lot. The spotty nature. I do think the Betrayal of Joshua Kind sounds pretty darn good. And like, it kind of sucks that you get to a song like that and you're like, okay, well, here's some like real piano sounds. Like, this actually sounds good, but the rest of the album like is so varied from track to track. The quality kind of ruins it for me. Probably should have just been an Ian Anderson solo album. I don't know how they split the difference between, which is which, but yeah, it's disappointing because I think it could have been pretty decent if he had like really gotten into it and gotten an outside producer and gotten like a real band and brought some of these songs. I think there's something there, but just execution, not great.
I'm closer with Joe, but I understand some of the points Jason's making, but I don't think it's saturated in the album as much as you do. I think there are elements where things are kind of ruined, and I don't really think the playing is that bad. I think there's a lot of really good piano. The flute's good. The guitar tone at times, and especially in a few songs, is out of place. It's no Martin Barre, but the playing is pretty good. I think it just has a lot of really cool musicality that a lot of other albums right now don't have, which I really dug. But it is a mixed bag. Jacob's Tales is more like the speed I'm looking for. Mine is the Mountain, I thought was actually really good. I love the soloing, the flute and the piano. But yeah, that title track is just so bad. It almost sounds like it's a piece from like Nightmare Before Christmas when he's like, beware, beware. It's like, that's too much. I think the mix is not great with Jason there. But the real problem with the mix for me is his vocals. It's way too clean and just like straightforward. Those early Tull records like Aqualung and Thick as a Brick was really nice and pristine and pretty. Had like that, like Lost in the Woods fairy tale kind of feel. And then the mix on the vocals in Aqualung is really cool because it's kind of like rough and rugged and kind of like thick. But here it just sounds really elementary, like you just recorded in his room and just made sure the levels were fine and didn't really mess with anything else. Just like, is the volume there? There's no buzzing. That's it. And he plays it pretty safe singing wise here. So obviously got the lungs to sing because he's playing the hell out of the flute on this album. The flute sounds great. I mean, there's no doubt there. Yeah, it's a light 3 stars. I think it's good just because I think the best thing it has going for it is the compositions of the songs. The songwriting is all really interesting. It's the sort of like progressive musicality in the songwriting that you don't really get in albums anymore. So I think it's good. I liked it. There are some really bad spots though. Like if there were a couple of if my favorite tracks on here did not exist, and you just like scratch those 2 tracks, it would go down to 2.5 or 2 stars because the bottom of the barrel on this album is pretty lousy.
I do think the people saying this is their best album since the 70s, probably insane. I think Crest of a Knave is pretty cool. So, I mean, they had some cool 80s stuff. There's no way this is better than that. Let's not get crazy.
Yeah, there is not 1 second of this record that's as good as anything on Crest of a Knave. Yeah, not even close. Melodically, like there's no melodies here really.
There's melodies. There's melodies.
Not that you're gonna remember in a week.
Test me in a week, buddy. I'm just
right.
gonna be just whistling this entire fucking album.
Let us know what you think of the record. If you've heard it, drop your thoughts down in the comments. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. Patreon, we're only a few patrons away from 100. So you could be the one to get us over the 100 mark. We got a merch store, all kinds of links in the description, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.